order the City of Laguna Beach Planning Commission for June 3rd, 2026. Can we please have a roll call?
Commissioner Dubin,
Here.
Commissioner Whiten,
Here.
Chair Pro Tem Goldman,
Here.
Chair Kellenberg.
Here. Commissioner Goldman, can I ask you, is there any, in your location, is there any member of the public that is joining you?
No, they're not.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the first thing we'll do is have our public communication. This is the time where anybody can address the Planning Commission on items that are not on the agenda, not on the agenda. Would somebody like, you have 3 minutes to speak. Would somebody like to bring up anything that's on their mind? Okay, in that case, we will close the public communications and we'll go to the consent calendar. We do have an item on the consent calendar, which we will pull because there has been a modification to the recommendation. So if staff could report on that, please.
Thank you, Chair Kellenberg. So this evening, staff is looking to present a revised recommendation in conjunction with the item for the Laguna Beach Lifeguard Towers concept review item. It was originally noticed for this evening's meeting with a staff recommendation to table the item to allow for additional time to make additional modifications to those plans. I did speak with Public Works earlier today, and they are ready to move forward with a scheduled hearing date. So staff would put forward a revised recommendation to continue the item to a date certain, in this case, June 17th, which is our next regularly scheduled meeting.
Okay, do I have a motion from the commission to modify the staff recommendation on item 4.1 as described?
Chair, I apologize if I may. I think we want to open it up to public comment in case anyone wants to comment on the continuance.
Yes, we'll open it up to public hearing. Is there anybody that would like to speak on this consent calendar item? Seeing none, we will close the public hearing.
I'll move the recommended action.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Dubin,
Yes.
Commissioner Whiten,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Goldman,
Yes.
Chair Kellenberg.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, we will move on to public hearing, item 5.1, temporary use permit 2026-1050. Applicant of City of Laguna Beach. Are there any disclosures? No disclosures? The staff like to educate us on this item?
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. My name is Alyssa Suarez, Senior Planner with the Community Development Department. Item 5.1 is a request from the Transit and Community Services Department for a temporary use permit for a modular pump track at the Community and Recreation Center at 30156 South Coast Highway. In July of 2025, the City Council directed staff to begin identifying a feasible location for a permanent pump track location based on expressed community interest. In April of this year, City Council directed staff to participate in a 2-week rotating program occurring throughout Orange County this summer. Based on community feedback, staff recommended the temporary placement at the CRC to gauge community interest and use in the amenity before deciding on a permanent location. So based on that background, the proposed pump track will be located at the existing grass field at the Community and Recreation Center. This parcel is zoned for residential uses and has a land use designation of public institution. Recreational facilities are an allowed use in this designation. Surrounding land uses include residential, commercial, and open space lands. The temporary use permit would authorize the placement of a modular pump track open to the public for a limited 14-day period. A pump track is a closed-loop course featuring rollers, bank turns, and similar elements that enable riders to use momentum rather than pedaling to move through the track. It is designed for bicyclists and other non-motorized wheeled users to develop skills, build strength, and recreate along a continuous pathway. The pump track would be transported using a 25-foot trailer, which would be stored on site for the duration of the program. The track would be operational from 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Monday through Friday and 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturdays. These hours are also consistent with staff hours who are responsible for managing access to the gated facility. Staff anticipates that mostly children would use the track, supervised by parents and adults, and CRC staff will be on site to ensure appropriate oversight and adherence to safety protocols. The pump track is restricted to non-motorized use only, ensuring that noise levels remain.
Oh, she's going in.
Let's go get him.
Look.
The pump track is restricted to non-motorized use only, ensuring noise levels remain consistent with existing recreational uses. So this slide portrays a conceptual design of the proposed pump track. It will be placed on the north side of the existing grass field. The southern portion will continue to be used as a temporary parking lot under an active temporary use permit. And a temporary physical barrier will be installed to mark where one use ends and the other begins to ensure user safety. Of the approximately 21,000 square foot grass field, roughly 19,500 square feet will remain available for overflow parking, maintaining current operational capacity. Staff has received one public comment from an adjacent property owner located north of the existing field, citing concerns regarding the proximity to residential properties and requests for evaluation of other sites. Staff has reviewed the request for the temporary use and finds it is consistent with the general plan. It enhances recreational opportunities for residents and is consistent with the recreational use of the project site. The site will be restored to its original condition after the 14-day period. And with that, staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt the resolution approving the temporary use permit and finding said action exempt from CEQA. Thank you, and we are available for questions.
Commission questions for staff?
Can you confirm that a staff person is on site at all times that the pump track is open?
Yes, good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Tierney Doran. I'm the Recreation Supervisor for the City of Laguna Beach. The CRC hours of operation include staff. So there will always be at least one staff person on site while the pump track is in use.
Okay, and the trailer is stored where?
It will be stored on site in the existing parking area on the grass field.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I've got a couple of questions. I know we approved overflow parking on that grass area some time ago, and I see that the pump track is going to take away some parking. And does that affect the TUP for the parking? Do we have to revisit that?
We do not anticipate any impacts on the parking. We know that during the summer quarter, our programming shifts so that it's more drop-off based than park and stay programming with summer camps instead of hour-long kids classes. So we don't anticipate any conflicts, and the parking will still be available for facility users.
Okay, but we're taking away some, so is there any issue with the parking TUP that we?
And through the chair, in this case, we can have multiple uses in operation. They would just be scaling back the approved portion of the parking use at that
Okay.
time.
And in terms of, there's clearly going to be people crashing on this thing. So what is the liability for the city in terms of oversight, or, do people have to sign waivers or anything to?
We do have skate ramps on property, and those are permitted. There's California Government Code, and the Assistant City Attorney here can correct me if I'm wrong. There is there's protections for local government agencies. It's some implied inherent liability, the same as using a beach.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
There will be staff on site. There will be rules for appropriate use that will include, wearing helmets, monitoring other users.
Okay.
That one of the reasons we selected the CRC was because there would be staff on site to monitor how it's used.
My only other question has to do with the hours of operation. Since this is only a 14-day temporary use, you've taken away 2 of the 14 days by not being there on Sunday, which I anticipate would be a very busy day for using it. So why are we not actually open for the full 14 days?
The approved use plan for the CRC currently omits Sundays as just a it's in a very residential area, so we did want to be mindful coming in there, starting programming, that we mitigate impacts to the neighbors where possible. So Sundays are a dedicated day of nothing happening on site, so the neighbors know that it'll be a quiet environment for them.
Yeah, but we're only talking about 2 days.
We are, that is something that I think the neighbors would have comments on if there's more use on those Sundays. They do look forward to having that protected, quiet day. If that's something that the Planning Commission feels very strongly about, we could look into the cost of scheduling additional staff for more hours on Sundays,
And how did you arrive at this location?
as opposed to other locations.
Yeah, but just because it's, you know, if kids are riding bikes to try to get there versus, you know, being dropped off in, you know, it's not a very safe environment, having to go down Coast Highway to access it.
This rental program that we're participating in also took place in Orange County last year. The other cities that participated in it last year reported that the majority of their users were young children who were brought in by their parents. So we anticipate that it's mostly going to be young kids who come in with a parent in a car, not riding by themselves on a bike.
So, I mean, but adults can use it, right?
Adults are welcome to use it,
Okay.
yes. There are bike lanes on Coast Highway now in that South Coast Highway section where the CRC is.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Commissioner Goldman, do you have questions?
Yeah, one question. It was actually a similar question to what George was asking. Is 2 weeks sufficient time to assess the demand usage of this? I don't know if George was getting at, you know, adding longer time, but my question specifically, is 2 weeks enough?
That's probably a question for the city council and their level of interest in assessing a temporary pump track as opposed to a permanent pump track. This is not going to be the same setup that any permanent pump track the city explores would be. This is smaller because it is a portable sort of modular setup. We identified 2 weeks because that's generally the duration that the other cities participating in have scheduled it for. The cost would increase if we were to extend beyond 2 weeks, and we don't have funds budgeted for additional time on the rental this summer.
Okay, and my last question, is there any precedent for anything like this? Has anything like this been done before?
Not to my knowledge. The closest would be the skate ramps that we have installed at the CRC. They're temporary in that they're not concrete mounted to the ground, but we have been using them for just over 2 years now without any major incidents.
Okay, thank you.
I have a couple questions. I'm a little confused as to whether this is like an event just for the summer for fun for 2 weeks and kids come and have fun and do this and then it's gone, or is this a pilot program for a more permanent facility at some time in the future?
This is a little bit of both. It is an event so that we can provide an amenity to kids, especially kids that'll be using the facility for summer camps during the summer. And then it's also an opportunity, knowing that the Recreation Committee has identified a permanent pump track in their work plan. So this way staff can evaluate whether a pump track is an amenity that the community appreciates and would use and is interested in finding space for on a permanent basis.
So is it seen in your minds as a pilot program for this location?
Not for this location, just it's an opportunity. to,
Generically,
just
is the community
pump tracks in
interested in
general.
these and will
Exactly.
people show up and so forth?
Yes,
And then you
correct.
can also monitor the amount of noise and activity and okay, so
That was why.
so
we
this
chose
isn't a camel's head under the tent on this site that will potentially just, modify into a permanent facility.
The CRC has not been identified by the Recreation Committee as their
Candidate
desired
site.
location.
Okay. So if that were to happen, it's obviously would come back here and there'd be
It-
plenty of opportunity for public.
Yes, it would come back
Input.
through multiple public meetings in the future. Yes.
Okay, thank you. If there are no other questions of staff, we can open the public hearing on this item. So anybody who would like to come up and speak, you have 3 minutes. Feel free to do so at this time. You mean you're not all here for the pump track? Oh. Okay. Okay, there seems to be nobody who wants to speak. I'll close the public hearing and open it up to a commissioner discussion. Commissioner Goldman, would you like to go first?
Sure, why not? I'm supportive of this. Looks like it could be kind of fun, and it's a 2-week test case, and let's just see how it goes. See how it's used, see if it's well received, see if there's issues with surrounding neighbors. I see no downside at all in doing this,
Okay, thank you.
as long as nobody gets hurt.
Yeah.
I agree. It's Kids with Bikes. It's a good summer program, and it's something a little bit different than what's available now in Laguna. And there's parking adjacent. It's a small area. It's kind of centrally located between South Laguna and the rest of the town. And it there's no fee. And what's not to like about it? It's mom and apple pie.
Okay, thank you.
I don't have much more to add to that. I think it's an interesting thing. I'm sure it'll be well received, but I still think since it's such a short duration, I would have been a little happier to see it open on Sunday as well, because I think that would have been a high use day. But I understand the rationale and the funding issue of that. So, but I'll be supporting it.
I think to me, the watershed is it an event or is it a pilot program for a permanent facility here? And being sort of a fun summer event, I commiserate with the adjacent neighbor. It's right there, and they will be impacted, but for 2 weeks with a day off for yoga and meditation in the quiet of the neighborhood. So on that basis, I think it should be acceptable to the neighborhood. So I would be supportive. Would somebody like to make a motion?
I move that Planning Commission adopt Resolution 2026-1050, approving temporary use permit 2026-1050, and finding said action exempt from SEQA.
Second,
Commissioner Dubin?
yes.
Commissioner Whiten?
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Goldman?
Yes,
Chair Kellenberg?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Have fun with that. Okay, let's move on to item 5.2, a ministerial design review, 2026-1135, design review 2026-0863, coastal development permit, et cetera, et cetera. Are there any disclosures?
I met with the applicant team.
As did I, and I met with 3 of the neighbors, 3 of the 4 neighbors that are most affected by the project.
Commissioner Goldman?
I met with the applicant team, and I had a phone conversation with one of the impacted neighbors.
I met with the applicant team and also met with one of the neighbors that evaluated their view impacts. So we'll start by a staff presentation.
Good evening, chairs and member of the commission. I'll be presenting item 5.2. Give me a moment as I wait for the presentation to
You
load.
could speak up a little bit.
Give me a moment while I wait for the presentation to load, and I'll be able to provide a visual PowerPoint.
We have a full room. You're going to have to speak up.
Certainly, I'll use the mic closer. Tonight's project request includes a ministerial design review and coastal development permit for a housing development project. Additionally, a tentative parcel map and coastal development permit is before the Planning Commission for their review and recommendation to the City Council. The project request for the ministerial design review includes the demolition of an existing surface parking lot and parsonage building located at 340 St. Anne's Drive. Construction of a new 3-story, 30,690 square foot multifamily residential building with 29 units and a 41-stall parking garage. The project also requires design review for site improvements associated with the housing development and a coastal development permit for the non-exempt development, consisting of both the housing development project and site improvements within the coastal zone. Additionally, Planning Commission will review and recommend approval on the tentative parcel map for the merging of the lots and a CDP for the non-exempt development consisting of the merger. The project site is 1.2 acres in size and currently has a split zoning of local business professional and medium density residential R2. The existing uses include the neighborhood congregational school and Montessori school. Previous entitlements for the project include variance number 460, which included construction of the church and parsonage and approved in 1947. Variance number 1498 was approved in 1961 for the construction of the sanctuary building. CUP 76-7 established the Montessori School and was approved in 1976. Lastly, CUP 00-49 expanded the Montessori School hours of operation and number of students in 2000. Notably, CUP-00-49 included a condition of approval requiring 11 on-site parking spaces to be designated exclusively for the use of the Montessori School during their hours of operation. This condition of approval will carry into tonight's resolution for the housing development project. The project has evolved since its original submission and has been modified in response to both community and staff feedback. The original project included redevelopment of the entire project site, including demolition of the existing church buildings. The housing development proposal included 44 units and was 41 feet in height. Additionally, the Montessori School was also proposed to be eliminated. In the current design, the building height maximum is 36 feet with 29 units. The NCC and Montessori School are to be maintained as is on the project site. The site was identified in the city certified housing element as site number 1. To date, none of the 80 low-income units allocated in the city's current 6-cycle housing element have been approved or constructed. This project tonight would provide meaningful progress towards fulfilling the city's obligations and greater, broader housing affordability goals with the construction of 28 low-income units. The proposed project would produce 3 fewer low-income rental units than anticipated in the housing element, which had estimated 31 units on this site. As reflected on the table, the city's progress, there are identified sites that will meet or exceed the remaining RHNA obligations in every income category. The identified capacity will ensure the city's continued progress towards our RHNA obligations for the 6th cycle. The project tonight has been submitted under the Affordable Housing on Faith and Higher Education Lands Act of 2023, also known as Senate Bill 4. This allows the housing development project to be submitted as a use by right. Eligible projects are exempt from local government requirements for discretionary review for the housing development. Additionally, these housing projects are exempt from further SEQRA review. In order to qualify as a housing development by right, the project site must be located on land owned by a qualifying religious institution within an urbanized area, not on an environmentally sensitive site, such as a very high fire hazard severity zone or hazardous waste site. The project cannot require demolition of protected housing units. The site cannot adjoin any sites dedicated to light industrial use. They cannot be within distance of an existing or recent heavy industrial use, and not within distance of an existing or recent Title V industrial use. The project cannot be within distance of an existing or recent facility that actively extracts or refines oil or natural gas. The project must be an affordable housing development project that complies with all objective development standards and does not include demolition of any existing residential dwelling units. The project must meet applicable labor standards, comply with an environmental assessment, be located further than 500 feet from a freeway, and is not located on a vacant site. Based on the SB4 checklist and application submitted by the project, the housing development project qualifies as an SB4 project and is a use by right and afforded the benefits and protections of SB4, density bonus laws, the Housing Accountability Act, and the Coastal Act would apply. Pursuant to the state's density bonus law provisions specified in Government Code Section 65913, the proposed housing development is allowed a baseline density of 30 units per acre for the project site. Additionally, the proposed affordable housing development is 100% affordable at the low income level, allowing them to be eligible for an 80% density bonus. The applicant is requesting a 46% density bonus, which is less than the maximum allowed under state law and will allow for 29 housing units on the 0.66 acre project site. The baseline density of 30 units per acre for the housing development was calculated based on the lot size of 0.66, which would allow for 19.8 units. The 46% density bonus is calculated on the 19.8 units, which gives us an additional 9.11 units. The total units for the project is 29.99. Under density bonus law, bonus units are rounded up to the next whole number, which allows for 29 units on the 0.66 acre site, or a density of 43.8 units per acre. The project is submitted as 100% low-income affordable development and therefore is eligible for 5 concessions and unlimited waivers under the state's density bonus law. Concessions are intended for modifications to development standards or requirements that result in identifiable cost reductions for the project. Waivers provide relief from any development standard that would physically preclude the development at the density permitted. The city is required to grant such requests unless specific findings can be made demonstrating a significant unmitigatable impact to public health, safety, or the environment, or conflict with state or federal law. The applicant is requesting 4 concessions and 2 waivers for the project. First, they are requesting to not provide private open space for the project. They are requesting relief from the additional building setback as required in the general yards and open space section of the municipal code. They are requesting a reduction of the required R2 front yard setback along Catalina Street from 20 feet to 10 feet. Government Code Section 65913 requires 1 off-street parking space per unit, and the applicant is requesting a reduction in the parking ratio for the 12 studio and 1-bedroom units to be parked at half space per unit rather than 1 space per unit. The resulting total parking space requirement for the housing development would decrease from 29 spaces to 23 spaces. The 2 waivers include exceeding the lot size maximum of 10,000 square feet for the LBP zone. The existing parcel is already non-conforming due to its current size of 37,640 square feet. The proposed affordable housing parcel will remain a split zone parcel with a 14,156 square foot R2 zone portion and a 14,781 square foot LBP portion for a total lot size of 28,937 square feet. Secondly, the applicant is requesting a reduction of the required 11,620 square feet of total open space to be reduced to 4,595 square feet. The housing development project must be consistent, compliant, and in conformity with the applicable plan, program, policy, ordinance, standard, and requirement to be deemed complete. As previously mentioned, the Coastal Act does remain applicable to the project. 2 specific findings must be made to deny the housing development project. The first is that the project would have a specific adverse impact upon public health or safety unless the project is denied or conditionally approved at a lower density. Secondly, that there is no feasible method to satisfactorily mitigate or avoid an identified adverse impact other than the denial of the development project or approval of the project contingent upon a condition that it be developed at a lower density. To support the project's conformity with the city's applicable objective design standards, the applicant has submitted an environmental site assessment geotechnical report, hydrology and hydraulic study, sanitary sewer analysis, water quality management plan, and traffic and circulation memo. These reports have been peer-reviewed by the city and its consultants, and their conclusions have been substantiated. The project meets all required objective development standards under SB 4, the city's general plan, municipal code, and residential guidelines. The project as designed will not create any adverse impacts to the surrounding properties or coastal resources. Staff find that the project complies with all applicable policies in the city's general plan and local coastal program. The project site is not located within any specific plan. The housing development project advances policy, goals, and objectives identified in the city's general plan land use element and housing element. Ministerial design review of the housing development project is for a 3-story multifamily residential building comprising 28 low-income rental units, 1 manager's unit, and a 41-space parking garage. The project has 8 studio units, 4 one-bedroom units, 9 two-bedroom units, and 8 three-bedroom units. The project meets all applicable design standards. As a result, the housing development is a use by right and not subject to design review. The project does require a coastal development permit, as the Coastal Act does apply to the project. The housing development is included along with the site improvements. Under Assembly Bill 2244, a developer of an SB4 project may request a reduction of up to 50% in the required parking for the existing religious use. There are currently 69 parking spaces provided on site, which would result in 35 religious use parking spaces required. The project proposes a parking garage with 41 parking stalls, which provides the required 35 religious use parking spaces. Additionally, the number of religious use parking spaces count towards the number of parking spaces required for the housing development project. Under SB4, the development project must provide 29 parking spaces, 1 space per unit. As previously discussed under the state's density bonus law, the applicant is requesting a concession to reduce the parking ratio for the 12 studio and 1-bedroom units to half space per unit. As a result, the parking spaces required for the residential project is 23 spaces. The project is providing 41 spaces that would provide 18 parking spaces for the church and Montessori school. 11 parking spaces are reserved for the exclusive use of the Montessori school during their hours of operation. The associated site improvements for the housing development projects are subject to design review. Specifically, those site improvements are 480 cubic yards of grading outside the building footprint, 150 feet of retaining walls along Catalina Street, landscaping improvements, including lighting, and 180 square foot elevated deck serving the second floor residential area. All required design review criteria are met for the site improvements. Staff finds that the housing development and projects site improvements are compliant with the required coastal development permit findings and the city's local coastal program. The project is also consistent with CEQA. The project has a tentative parcel map to merge 4 lots into 2 parcels in order to eliminate the existing fragmented condition and create 2 legal parcels, one for the religious institution and second for the housing development project. In doing so, the proposed parcel map improves conformity with lot area, lot width, and lot depth requirements of the R2 and LBP zones and allows for the parcels to function as 2 distinct building sites. The resulting R2 parcel is consistent with the development standards pursuant to the Municipal Code Section 2512.008. The existing LBP parcel is non-conforming and will remain non-conforming. The applicant is requesting a concession to exceed the maximum lot size of 10,000 square feet, as combining the lot is necessary for the housing development project to be located on a single parcel as required by the California Building Code. Staff finds that the housing development project and site parcel map are compliant with the required coastal development permit findings in Chapter 2108 subdivision section of the Laguna Beach Municipal Code. The project is consistent with the Certified Local Coastal Program as well as CEQA. As of this afternoon, 74 letters have been received for the project, 66 in support, 3 letters noting concern, and 5 letters in opposition. Concerns raised by the residents include view, noise, privacy, landscaping, and parking concerns, as well as site access. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution Number 2026-1135, approving ministerial design review, 2026-1135, design review 2026-0863, and coastal development permit 2026-0864, and also adopt Resolution Number 2026-0865, recommending the City Council approve tentative parcel map 2026-8065 and coastal development permit 2026-094. Additionally, the Planning Commission should find that no further environmental review is required under state CEQA guidelines, Section 15162, or alternatively is not a project or is exempt under Government Code Section 65913.16C and B12B, as well as 65913.16L7, respectively. That concludes my presentation. I'm available to answer any questions, as is the project applicant and property owner.
And Mr. Chair, if I may add a few quick thoughts. As explained by Ms. Sharma, the project before the Planning Commission tonight is very unique for the city. Contemplates several state housing laws that substantively modify what local development standards the city can apply to the project, such that our normal city rules simply do not apply here. This is not a judgment call or a policy call by city staff. It is a legal mandate from our state legislator. Upshot is that the Commission's review of the housing development project, i.e. the actual housing units, is extremely limited. Only certain objective design standards can be applied, which they're explained in the record and by Ms. Sharma's oral report. Absent from these standards is the city's standard view equity, neighborhood compatibility. Those rules simply do not apply to the housing development project. Regarding the Coastal Act, unlike other state housing laws, there is no Coastal Act savings clause in SB4. The law is relatively new. Rules of statutory interpretation require us to harmonize this law, i.e. SB4, with our responsibilities under the Coastal Act. Staff's review of the project, which once again is just our recommendation to you all, the city decision makers, is that there are no substantive impacts on any identifiable coastal resource. Further, even if there was, that is not a dispositive route for the city to deny the project or otherwise reduce the density of the project. Instead, it would be my advice, if there was a substantive impact on a coastal resource, is that we would need to do our very, very best to maintain the same number of units, the same square footage, but could potentially look into design tweaks to once again protect that identifiable coastal resource. I'm going to reiterate once more, staff could not identify any. I'll end with this. The scenario that we find ourselves in is a prescriptive state housing laws. We can all have our opinions on the wisdom or efficacy of those. However, the Planning Commission must follow these mandates of these laws as explained in the record by Ms. Sharma's report. And in this little monologue here, I'm of course available with any questions. Thank you for the time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for that explanation. So are there any questions from the Planning Commission to staff on their presentation?
Yeah, if I may, because I'll
Please.
start. Thanks, Pat. That summary was very helpful. Much appreciated. So what happens with regard to the concessions that are being asked? Does the same apply? For example, if we didn't grant the 6 space concession or didn't grant the open space concession, what happens then? Or are we in effect have no latitude other than to agree to the concessions?
The concessions and waivers are part of the state's density bonus law and must be approved unless findings can be made to disapprove the project.
Okay, so there really isn't much discussion or comment on those. They'll be approved. And same thing with regard to changes to lessen residential view impacts. I understand, perhaps tweaking, but tweak in my mind is not significant at all. It seems as though our hands are tied in the interest of this law and the way this is, our hands are tied with regard to suggesting any changes or modifications to lessen the view impacts. Is that correct as well?
That would be a fair assessment, Mr. Chair Pro Tem.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah, could you explain the staff's inconsistency letter?
Okay. All right. So when speaking about the inconsistency letter itself, this one was prepared prior to posting and making available staff's assessment. So it is, inconsistency letter does provide some latitude with discussion and with the discovery of additional information that might be beyond what staff is currently have available in our record. So the staff report is prepared based upon what we have available at this moment in time. Though it does give some latitude to the Planning Commission to be able to address some of the additional items that might have been identified in that inconsistency letter. There are some, if you have any feedback on this one, okay. Yeah, so it is something, it's an independent item for review, and the staff report was taken based upon staff's assessment at that moment in time, based upon the facts available and the recommendation based upon that information. So it is helpful information as far as the inconsistency letter, but I would, based upon what you have in the staff report, in your own assessment of the facts related to this case, and then make that independent judgment at that time.
So just so I understand, the staff report incorporates some of the comments in the inconsistency report letter?
I think that's a good question, but I think I might need to rephrase it. They're parallel tracks, and that the inconsistency is looking at all of the possible inconsistencies with the code and identifying all of those elements. The staff report goes into more of the narrative, explaining the items for consideration. And so that is what you would be able to, you can take your own experiences in that site visit and with assessing the materials that are available for review and determining whether or not there's an inconsistency beyond what might have been identified in that initial letter.
So the inconsistencies identified in that letter, is it staff's opinion that those were addressed in the staff report and
Yes, I would
by
say so.
our council?
Correct, yes.
Thank you. That's it for now.
That's it for now.
Yeah.
Only one.
Well, I have a couple of small things. I'll just, that was a bigger item. Mr. Donegan addressed I thought he did an excellent overview of what our focus is here tonight. It's very narrow. A question about the landscape in the Catalina right-of-way. Is a part of this project? But is it a separate set of drawings since it's not within the property line?
Currently, there have been no revisions proposed to the Catalina Street improvement projects. There are discussions between the applicant and Public Works, but as far as I'm aware, no final conclusions have been made.
My question is that a separate set of drawings or is that included in this approval?
There are site and right-of-way improvement plans. However, they're not the final site and right-of-way improvement plans, and the project is conditioned to provide a final right-of-way improvement plans as part of their project through the building plan check process.
Okay. What is the height of the retaining wall at the northeast corner? Right now, it's the tallest point of the existing retaining wall. What is in the future with this proposal? What would the height of that retaining wall be?
The project applicant might be able to provide the exact measurement as provided in the plans. The specifications simply state that the retaining walls vary in size between 4 to 6 feet, I believe. So at that specific location, I wouldn't be able to provide an exact measurement of height.
Okay, I'll ask the applicant. Thank you.
Are any of the existing buildings on any national, state, or local historic registry?
None of the current existing buildings at 340 St. Anne's are in any national, state, or local register for historic resources.
Okay. And just for clarity, you refer, the staff report refers to a three-story structure. Are you including the subterranean parking in that?
Correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I've got a couple. What would happen if we denied this?
And so I'm always reluctant to kind of speak in hypotheticals. There's of course a appeal right to the city council. However, my advice to the planning commission is any attempt to deny or reduce the density of this project must be in line with state housing laws. You guys are the city decision makers, not us. However, you would very, very much need to expand and lay out the specific reasons in the record for that. Staff's review of the project indicates that they are not present. However, that is just staff's recommendation.
Yeah, and given that I would agree they're probably not present because they're very clear and very, dramatic. But it would lead to, I would assume, a number of lawsuits, including the state, you would guess. I know that's hypothetical.
Correct. And I am speaking very hypothetically here. I would be very, very surprised if we did not receive a letter from HCD within 24 to 48 hours. As I said before, the applicant would then have appeal rights to the city council. I cannot speak for the applicant. However, I would suspect that, I can't say whether they'd sue us immediately or wait to the city council. But yeah, there would be severe legal consequences for the city. Yes.
And how important is this project relative to our RENA requirements? I mean, you hit on that, but I mean, the RENA requirements are really difficult to achieve at all. And so what happens if we don't meet any of those requirements?
If the city does not meet any of the current obligations in our cycle, they would be added to the next cycle, especially at the low income level. It is difficult to produce those units. And so this project is, very helpful in helping the city meet those requirements for the 80 low income units identified in the current cycle.
Thank you. Regarding the same retaining wall, has there been, I know there's a geotechnical report. I'll confess I did not read it in its entirety, but was special consideration given to impacts of the construction of the grading and the retaining wall to directly adjacent residences? Were there any special measures being taken to better guarantee a lack of impact?
The report did include recommendations for additional analysis and soils testing to be done during the construction phase. So there will be additional information that will inform the applicant as to meeting California Building Code requirements to ensure there are no adverse impacts to any adjoining properties.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Chair, if I may, I did want to, not to be too dramatic, but going back to your original question about kind of, what would happen, the one thing that I also did want to add, not just the potential legal liability from the applicant here before us today. This site is one of our housing element sites. I believe it's actually number one, if I'm not mistaken. Once again, I cannot speak for HCD. However, there is a process that should HCD feel that a city is not complying with or adhering to the mandates of its certified housing element, there is a decertification process. Once again, I cannot guarantee that would happen. However, that would definitely be in the playbook for HCD. And as I'm sure you are all aware, that housing element kind of serves as a prophylactic to the city. Without one, you are exposed to a variety of things, such as the builder's remedy, that someone can come in and say, hey, we're going to do whatever we want because you as City of Laguna Beach are, in arrears with HCD and, you're not following the rules. So I just, not to add to the parade of horribles, but answering your question, I felt that I missed that in there.
And
my
it took
previous
us
answer.
several tries to get it approved to start with.
That is correct. And that is pretty consistent with.
Can you quickly go to the slide that shows the 4 design review components that are under the purview of the Planning Commission on this? I mean, grading was one. I tried to find it in the staff report. I couldn't find it clearly articulated. I'm sure it's in there.
It's the slide grading outside of the building footprint, the retaining walls that exceed 5 feet in height, landscaping and the lighting improvements, and the elevated deck for the residential area.
Thank you. Okay. If there's no other questions, would the applicant like to make any comments or make a presentation? You may do so at this time. And feel free to address any of the comments or concerns that have been addressed by the public. Although we'll probably hear a few more, but
You're welcome to sit at the table if that makes it easier.
Okay, that might be helpful.
Thank you so much.
Well, good evening, Chair, members of the commission, and staff and community members. My name is Craig Farmer. I'm with Related California, the developer of this project. Let's go to introductions. I just wanted to introduce our development team, give you a little background as to who Related is. Some of you know Related, some of you don't. So with us tonight is our development team. We have Leanne Takano, who is our Executive Vice President, yours truly. And then we have Barry Kyler, our Design Team Coordinator, and Keith Labus, who is our architect for this project with KTGY. Next. So who is, next. So who is Related? Related is a development company based in Irvine, California, and we've developed over 22,000 affordable units. Well, let me rephrase that. We have about 17,000 units that we've developed and a little over 5,000 that are in our pipeline. We've won approximately 140 design awards. We've developed 30 affordable developments in Orange County, and we have roughly 37 years of experience developing affordable housing. I bring up those numbers not to brag, but really to let you know that we have a tremendous amount of experience with affordable housing. With that experience comes what I call best practices. When we develop a project, when we design a project, we incorporate those best practices into the design of the project. In addition to that, we also have a presence here in Laguna Beach. As many of you probably know, we were the development team that developed the last fully 100% affordable housing project known as Alice Court. Bill Whitty, who is our founder and chairman emeritus, has been a 30-year resident of Laguna Beach. So we do have a presence here. We will continue to have a presence in Laguna Beach. What makes an affordable housing project successful is the management. And as part of our management group, we actually have an internal management group that will manage this project. That management group was founded in 1974. We have roughly 400 developments under management by that group, and those are affordable units. Within California, there's about 7,500 affordable units. One of the items that always comes up is how do you comply with all the various regulations? Well, our experience with management also has given us that ability to ensure that we are managing so that we meet all of those regulations that are a part of the financing package that goes along with this project. Next slide. I want to turn it over to Barry, who's going to talk about the design. We've had some changes after discussing with various neighbors, with some of you on an individual basis. So I think Barry wants to go ahead and just give a real brief presentation on how we've incorporated some of those changes.
Barry Kyler from Related California. I've been with Related for 25 years.
And I provided the same role to the Alice Court project over 20 years ago. Was very active in that development. Meeting with the.
Excuse me, could you make
Yeah,
sure your
I
microphone?
apologize. Meeting with the commissioners regarding this project. It was a typical comment that we heard that the one color scheme was, it needed to be broken up for us to study an alternate color scheme that allowed kind of create a village of the project there. And we listened and we, so that's what we shared with you there, one color scheme. If we go to the next slide, we have a scheme here where we've got a different color scheme at the rear towards Catalina, and then the original color scheme, the bungalow scheme, up front at Glen Eyrie. And then when we're studying this scheme, we also had a view issue with a residence behind us that we're trying to rectify. And so when we're breaking up the building and looking at the color schemes, we saw an opportunity to lower the roof even more at that rear portion, at the highest ridge line of that rear portion of the building. So we had an opportunity to drop that 2'7" lower than what the story poles currently show. And that allowed us to provide a little bit more articulation in that roof. We got rid of the gable roof along the Clio elevation there up on top at the elevator shaft. That's that boxy element in the middle. And we redesigned it to a hip element lower. And that really created a break in that elevation to create the look of, the appearance of two unique buildings. Obviously, one of the color schemes at the rear has a bronze window, and then the color scheme at the front has a white window. So we did listen to your comments. We thought they were great comments, and we would like to submit this alternate tonight for consideration.
Can you point out more clearly where or perhaps Shavita could, where that height reduction occurred? Is the dark black dashed line the original?
If we go back to the other scheme, there we go. Oh no, that
I'll
one
go
actually
back
doesn't
and
show it.
forth.
It's if we go back to the rendering, one more. Oh boy, there we go. So that elevation there, that highest ridge line that we see there to the right, it's that was the ridge line that was clearly in view of a neighbor that was behind us. And so with that ridge line there, we took 2'7" off of that ridge. We brought it down. So the ridge line to the left, that's continuous horizontal. We carried that ridge line all the way across the building. We have now a parapet roof condition with a flat roof beyond at that portion of the building to the right. So 2'7" lower than what the story poles currently show.
You did that by introducing a flat roof portion?
Yes.
A parapet?
Yes.
Rather than being a full gable, the whole entire roof?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
is the parapet height at the minimum?
Yes, it is. Yes. And so we did do an overlay on photographs from that residence, and we felt that from the upper, their deck, their dining deck, we were able to gain their view back at a sitting position. That's from the deck view. And we have photos that can show that to you if needed.
Proceed.
And that's it. Thank you.
Well, do you want to, we have some more slides.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Sorry. Oh, I forgot we did have the photograph of it. Yeah. It's, those are the colors there. It's next scheme, next slide. This is the color schemes from the renderings. This is the original proposal, all one color scheme. Again, not the most accurate with the landscape, but one color scheme from Clio. If we go to the next slide. This shows the varying color scheme, the bungalow style up front, a little bit more contemporary there towards the rear. Very difficult to see. If we can see the next color scheme.
I think that's it.
Oh, there we go.
Actually, if we could go back to the two previous ones, they show the color schemes and switch between that one and the one before. You
Yeah.
can see the difference between those.
So now at the Catalina elevation, a portion of actually the St. Anne's elevation that's visible to the two houses adjacent to us there, and the Clio elevation towards Catalina would be the bit more of a contemporary scheme that we see here, still in a bungalow manner. And then the original color scheme is forward. We're abandoning that on Catalina. The original color scheme is now forward towards Glen Eyrie. That would wrap around across the Glen Eyrie elevation and into the courtyard back to, the portion of the, let's call it the L shape, where it will transition back to the
the alternate color scheme. So in the courtyards, you're still going to see the two color schemes. It's not just limited to the perimeter. You're going to see that in the courtyard also. And again, that has two different color windows, a bronze window and a white window, to give it two unique, body styles.
And we do have those samples of windows, and we also have the color and material board to present to you as well.
Correct. And then also, again, with the roof, we have a hip roof towards the rear and a gable roof to the front, again, to distinguish that break in the building mass. Thank you.
So the quick question. So the alternate color scheme is in addition to, so you'll be combining the two in the overall building color?
Correct. If it's the preference of the commission to proceed with the alternate color scheme, that's what we would hope to be conditioned with approval and proceed with that scheme.
So, but part of the building will remain the original? And then
Yeah.
the other- okay.
Yes. Yeah. We've created two.
Combination of the two.
Correct.
The point
Very
is,
similar to
is trying to appear as multiple buildings
Yes.
instead of one big building.
Yes, exactly. And we agree 100%. Yeah, those comments were great, and we're able to take a quick look at it and get the two building look.
Can you tell us about the retaining wall?
Yeah, so the highest part of the wall, it's actually really an existing condition there at that northeast corner at the rear there, Catalina. The grade above the wall currently is 90 at elevation 90, and the parking lot surface is right there about 75. So right now, currently, it's about 15 feet. We're raising the grade on our side of the property by a foot, just a foot there. So that wall is going to be 14 feet instead of, 14 feet instead of 15 feet. And then it slopes. As Catalina slopes, that wall continues to slope, and it's going to daylight at that west corner there. Really, it's going to meet up almost close to 72 on our property and 72 plus on the city side of the property. So it's
There's access into the site at that northwest.
it's
corner.
fire access.
Fire
It's
access.
fire access.
Okay.
We can't provide pedestrian access there because it would be an accessible route. We could create an accessible route there, but it would be an accessible route to nowhere. It would be it would not be, that accessible route would not terminate at a accessible condition. So if we provided access, I know one of the neighbors wanted to see access from our site to Catalina for access to the high school. If we promoted access, to go through there to use that fire, entrance, we would technically be discriminating because we could not provide an accessible access, to a public way. So we can't promote that as a walkway for the site. And it's really because it's not an accessible condition immediately once we step across the property line. We could create an accessible route, absolutely, on the site, but we just can't achieve that on the city side of the property.
Back to the block wall. What color is that block?
We proposed a sand finish, a precision block sand finish with a precision cap, also in
Right.
color sand.
Are there vines on that wall?
We would like to propose vines. Currently, there are no vines called out on the wall, but we would like to propose vines on that wall.
Okay. Now regarding the landscape plan, in looking at the landscape plan, I mean, this would be part of commissioner's comments, but are you willing to make some changes to the landscape? Plan?
Yes, we are, absolutely.
Okay. I'm really referring to the north side, the Catalina.
Yes. One of the discussions we've been talking with Public Works is to remove the trees from our property that are at the rear against that retaining wall that really don't benefit the street. They're sunken, onto our side, and they also create not a clear fire access within that setback. So we would like to provide shrubs appropriate to the city of Laguna Beach on the right of way, the public right of way on just the other side of the property line. We would maintain the trees. The shrubs. We would irrigate them. We would take full responsibility for those shrubs. But we believe that they would benefit the Catalina elevation more by helping break down, screen the building to the residences, across the street and up St. Anne's. They're not going to get to a height, obviously, being shrubs that will exceed the height of the building. They would just help, break down the mass of the Catalina elevation.
Okay, my last questions are about your neighbors, the 4 neighbors that are most immediately impacted.
Yes.
And I know before this iteration of the project, you had already made some changes to the building to respond to one of the view
Correct.
concerns. And then there are 3 other properties on St. Anne's that have some impact too on ocean views, and one is just an adjacent property that wants screening from the project.
Right.
Have you talked to all of those neighbors, and do you feel there's an agreeable resolution on the issues?
We have talked to the neighbors. We didn't have clear dialogue with one of the neighbors. We were just told when I met that neighbor in the parking lot when the story poles were going up that their view was completely blocked. We learned that view was blocked from a lower level bedroom, a primary bedroom, and it was from a deck off that primary bedroom. But we learned that we had achieved clearing the view from their upper level, their main living space, their dining area, living room, deck area. But we were not in direct contact with that neighbor because we felt that as we were working on providing a clear view for a neighbor across the street on Catalina, that if we achieved clearing the ocean view for that neighbor, then we would achieve clearing the view from the main level of the house across the street. So working with the neighbor, immediately across the street from that house, we felt confident that we were going to, maintain the view from that upper level. The house that has the landscape issue, we are working with that neighbor. We are going to discuss opportunities to landscape. They don't have an ocean view, but they have an impact of the structure being immediately adjacent to their property.
That's the one on Clio.
No, this is the house on St. Anne's.
That would be the one that's adjacent to the Montessori play area, if you're familiar
Yep.
with that.
So we're going
It's
to
kind of sunken down at a lower elevation.
So we're going to work with that neighbor to determine what we can do on our site or possibly on their site to rectify that, to break down that view impact. We are in discussion with that neighbor. And we'll do what's necessary. And then the view from the one that's further up St. Anne's, that is the view that I talked about, that before we staked the project, we did what we thought was everything we could to get the project down. Besides, grading further, we maxed out the clearance in the parking garage. We took a foot out of the plate height in the upper level, knowing that we could put our fan coil units up in the attic and our exhaust up in the attic. So we scrunched the building down as much as we thought we could. And it wasn't until we were hoping that was going to be enough. But once we saw the story poles, we realized it wasn't enough. And we realized that we needed to do more. And that's where we continued to study the roof, what we could do. And that's where we proposed the parapet roof just for that portion of the side of the project that allows us to lower the roof 2 feet, 7 inches more. We feel that gives them the ocean view in that location. They have a view to the left, kind of a view in the middle and a view to the right. And it's that view to the left that's impacted. We feel that from their deck, their upper level deck where they have outdoor furnishings, dining area, that their sit down view is captured back with that. We weren't able to accommodate the sit down view from in their dining area, which is a few feet lower, but a stand up view is typical of the sit down. A stand up view in that living room is typical of the sit down view from the deck. So they have the stand up view equal to the sit-down view of the deck. So yes, we have been discussing the design and view. We're very concerned with
We
the views.
can't condition this project to do any of those things, the color changes, the window trim changes, or these view, or lowering the roof. But are you committing to voluntarily? To
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's what we're bringing. We are proposing those changes. We would like to make those changes to the project. All of them.
Okay. And
I'm
on
sorry for the miscommunication.
the 4 elements that we do need to do design review on, is there the landscape, the deck, the little deck facing Glenary,
Mhm.
the retaining wall and the grading. Is there any, how much grading is being done outside of the building footprint?
Outside of the building footprint, that was,
480 cubic yards.
oh, thank you.
Sorry, I didn't hear you, Sophia.
480 cubic yards.
Okay. All right. Okay, those are all my questions for now. Thank you.
Would it be possible to set the color board
Yes.
over here so we can kind of be looking at it while we're discussing the project? Just up against Nancy's desk so that we could see it and.
Maybe the podium, so.
Well, I want to allow that's great. Okay, thank you. Being an artist, I want to talk about something we discussed when we met, and that's the Art in Public Places program. I know the SB4 does not require you to do that, but you had kind of expressed that maybe you would like to out in the
Absolutely.
front areas. Do you have still on the plan to do something?
We would like to commit to that. Yes.
Okay. So, okay, great. Getting to materials a little bit. So the stone you've selected, is that a natural stone or is some kind of a faux?
It's a synthetic stone. Yes. It's not a natural stone,
Okay.
but which is very common in the building industry. The stone down at Alice Court, that's also a synthetic stone.
Okay.
It looks very real,
And
very durable.
okay. In terms of the cement block for the retaining walls, yeah, is that just a typical flat? You're not using split face block there? Or?
No, it's a precision sand finish, but we could do a split face if that's desired. Absolutely.
Just, as a suggestion, just because adds a little texture to the wall, so it's not so institutional looking.
It's not an issue. We could absolutely do that. We would like to do that. We also plan on planting vines at
Right.
that rear of the elevation, which will help conceal the wall. But the mixture of the split face and the vines, I think, would be a good choice. Absolutely.
Okay, that'd be great. So you've addressed because I think I was the one who mentioned when we met the white color of the vinyl windows and maybe suggesting a darker one. So I see we have 2 different ones here that will
So this
go
is
into the
yeah,
colors.
this is our window manufacturer that we install this window on every project. Quaker Commercial, very, very good window, high quality window, much better than a Milgard window. And this is their bronze finish, which is also available in white. So it's a nice thick frame. It's a quality window.
So the bronze finish would be in the second color scheme?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
In terms of construction management and staging, what's your plan there?
That has not been determined yet. We still need to engage a general contractor
Okay.
to discuss the logistics, but that would, absolutely be provided to the city before issuance of any permit. Of course, that would be required by the city.
Yeah, because that's kind of a big deal, especially in a residential neighborhood there.
Absolutely.
With that level of construction going
We
on.
had the same challenges with Alice Court also.
And that
Okay.
would include any dirt hauling that needs to occur as well. So
Okay.
there would be a plan for all of that.
So basically best practices.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, and approved by the city. They won't issue a building permit until that's approved.
I think that's all the questions I had. Most of my questions were negated. Thank you.
Commissioner Goldman.
No questions.
I just have a couple because most of mine have been answered. Can you speak to the timing of this project and why my understanding is there is some,
Sure.
issues if it's delayed.
Well, this project is completely dependent upon its financing. And the financing that is involved with this project happens twice a year. And it's what we refer to as the affordable housing tax credits. And that application period happens, as I mentioned, twice a year, one time in around April and then another time in July. So our focus right now is meeting that July application. In the event that we are unable to meet that July application, then this entire project would be deferred until April of next year at a minimum.
So if there were substantive changes to, say, the massing of the building or the structure, that would cause that level of delay.
If we did not have project approvals before the application period, then yes, that would cause a significant delay.
And this issue of the retaining walls and the construction of the retaining walls on adjacent neighbors, I know there's a geological study and they may do additional testing, but have you given any thought to the concerns of the adjacent neighbors on that topic?
We have, and we are reaching out to the various neighbors that would be impacted by the removal and replacement of the retaining walls. As of yet, we don't have any real, what I'll call, agreements in place with any of those neighbors. Of course, it would involve our contractor. We don't have a contractor yet that we have a contract with. We have one that is advising us, but it would also involve that contractor as well. And that would come down the line as we develop our actual construction drawings that would include, what does the foundation of the wall require?
And if I could ask council a question. The retaining walls and the grading is within our purview in terms of design review. And is this an area where we could have a condition of approval?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I think let's get on to the public comment. We'll open the public here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
but you can sit there because you may be speaking further. So can I see the hands of those that wish to speak tonight? Okay, it's not a horribly high number. So we'll go ahead and allow 3 minutes. I mean, if there's too many, sometimes we go to 2 minutes, but if you didn't raise your hand, you can't, you're not allowed to speak. So we'll allow 3 minutes, and the yellow light says I think 30 seconds left, and the red means your time is over. So make sure you sign the clipboard, and please state your name and address.
And this is really a fortunate thing for my church because I only get 3 minutes, y'all. I'm Pastor Rod Eccles, Neighborhood Congregational Church. And after an incredible presentation with awesome questions and considerations, I simply just want to thank you on behalf of our congregation at NCC, our partners, those that we are in community with, those who have seen our church as a meeting place, a place for the community for several decades. And I'm just grateful for the process that we've undertaken here tonight. As a reminder, the congregation that I lead, we've had 3 goals throughout this process. We wanted to remain on our site as a spiritual community. We wanted to provide a community benefit, including affordable housing. And we also wanted to get inches closer to this financial sustainability because we wanted to create an opportunity for us to further our work for the next 50, 60, 70, 80 years. And so I'm grateful that this project moves us very pragmatically in that direction. And in addition to that, I'm grateful for the families, the children, youth, the adults who sometime in the next 2 to 3, I'm going to say 2 to 3 years, hopefully no more than that, will be able to call our place their home. For we all know that Laguna Beach, like many coastal communities, has had several housing challenges. Those challenges have persisted for years. It's a real crisis. And so we have an opportunity to do something for the workers, city workers, those who travel long distances to serve our city in areas like retail, dining, hospitality, and travel. And of course, the housing element has made it possible for our site to be an opportunity site for affordable housing, and we've taken that opportunity very seriously. I want to thank Related California for being our partner in this process, folks with great experience, a long track record of doing this work, and I hope their answers tonight have demonstrated that even though SB4 constrains you in many substantial ways, we've still been able to enjoy the leadership and the presence of a partner who still wants to respond with us to the best extent we can to make this development a great project for us and for the wider community. So I'm grateful for Related California. And then I also just want to add, we're glad that we can keep the Montessori school as part of our new approach. As you know, that wasn't a part of our original plan, but because of the circumstances that you've heard tonight and that you've heard in recent weeks, we are now able to keep Montessori as part of our current approach, and for that we are grateful. Finally, I do want to express gratitude to our neighbors, and even those who have said to me over the days and weeks and months and years that they need this housing. I think all that feedback has made it possible for us to create an awesome development, and I look forward to moving forward.
Thank you.
Following a preacher is risky. I'm Cody Engel. I'm a member of the board of directors of the Laguna Beach Land Trust. The Land Trust is an independent, community-based nonprofit that is required by statute to maintain its property holdings as affordable. The board of the Land Trust, while having no direct involvement in this project, strongly support the effort. The board respectfully requests that the Planning Commission approve the project as recommended by staff. First, the entire community should thank and congratulate the church for their incredible, generous action in working so hard to provide affordable housing in our community. The church could have sold this property for $8 or $10 million to a patient developer who would spend 5 to 10 years suing the city and going back and forth, and then ultimately would erect 25 three-story $1 million condos. But instead, the church has worked hard to address the community concerns, amazingly hard. And under SB4, they didn't have to do this. The church has agreed to a 60% reduction in the number of units and the preservation of the major existing structures. They have given much more than is required under the law, and we must not demand more changes. Under the proposed plan, the community will have 28 housing units for our teachers, police force, seniors, artists, and local workers. There is legal preferencing that can help provide that the housing is made available to folks who are connected to this community. Given the primary mission of the Community Land Trust is the creation of affordable housing, we hope that this is a first step by the church. This first step by the church will help the community understand how important the creation of affordable housing is to maintain the spirit and ethos of Laguna Beach. I urge the commissioners to approve this, and the Land Trust will be urging the City Council to match the state grant of $2.5 million to assure that this project actually gets built. Thank you.
Thank you. No clapping, please.
Hello, Commissioners. I'm Jacob Cherub. I live 2 or 3 blocks from the project, and I really, our household really wouldn't be negatively affected very much, but there are neighbors to the project whose world will be rocked by this project as it is. I think the fact that they went down, they say 60% or something like that, they started out with 71 units, which was just insane. And now they look like the good guys, that they went from insanity to just high density. Most of the units are 2 and 3 bedroom units. Those are going to be families. Those are going to be families with children, or it's going to be multiple households in a unit. There is not enough parking on this, in this project to satisfy and accommodate those people. So they're going to park in the neighborhood by the dozens. And we all know that neighborhood. It's not going to accommodate that. That's going to be a huge problem for the neighborhood. And that is just one example of how Related Company, through the church, is putting in a massive project. Good practices in doing a 3-story project like this is you step back the setbacks. They're not doing any of that. This is basically a block of housing. And you can paint some different colors left and right, but that's not going to satisfy people or allow them to live in the shadow of this. I think that the joining of parcels may give an opportunity for the city to step in and try to have some kind of accommodation, because this is, no matter what, there isn't a project like this in Laguna Beach, in a place like this. And it's going to be hard. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but this notion of that we're going to have artists and people who are working in town are going to be going to these units, I don't think this happens in this kind of a project. I think the word goes out, people apply for it, they can come in from Kansas City, Oregon, wherever. They're not going to be serviced, the residents of this town, artists and people working here. So city workers, I don't think are going to have the benefit of this. So I think that they could do better. I'll just finish that thought. I think they could do better. And I'll just use the example. You know, when people look at just bear with me. People ask, why do oil companies charge as much as they do?
Well, let's not get into the oil companies. I think we've received your,
doing here. I'm sorry.
we've received your
What
comments.
they're doing here, the answer is because they can. And SB4 has allowed them to put on something that's, when they talk about a project that would be 10 stories, 10 years.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Kurt Weiss. I live at 666 Catalina Street. I'm about 2.5 blocks away from the project. I support the project. In the 35 years that I've been in the neighborhood, the church has been an extremely good neighbor. For those who are concerned about the project, I just asked 2 questions. The city obviously has an obligation to support affordable housing. My 2 questions are, if not here, then where? If not now, then when? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I don't know whether you've had a chance to read any of the mail that came in I don't know whether that's happened, but I didn't hear my subject.
Pull the microphone a little closer if you don't mind.
Is that okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks.
First of all, congratulations. I cannot believe how many letters I read from all of your church people. However, very many of them did not live directly in Laguna, or they did not live directly in the neighborhood, which stuck in my mind because we live on Clio and Catalina Street. And there was not much discussion by our architect of the impact to the homes on Clio. And I really would like to engage you in that discussion, and you are welcome to come and visit us and see what the impact is. The story polls really hit it because we have this magnificent church that is so beautiful and we treasure it, and it's completely obliterating the view. But the other issue is that we have concerns about I was surprised by the modern structure.
Please address the commission.
Sorry?
Please address the commission.
I'm sorry. When he mentioned the modern architectural segment of the view on Catalina or Clio Street. I was a bit surprised because nobody ever talked to us about that. We never really saw a good rendering of what was going to happen on Clio Street. So I would like to engage the architect and with your assistance, be able to coordinate with what the other people in the neighborhood want, because we have 4 properties right on Clio. We are all contiguous to the church. And I think we are one of the very few properties in Laguna Beach that are contiguous to the property of the church. So we would really appreciate having that dialogue. The noise issues are significant, and I think we hear the trash barrels being raided by the dumpster divers regularly, and also when the trash is picked up, that's a major noise factor. And I expect that that will get significantly worse with the development. I'm very delighted that you reduce the density. I believe in affordable housing. I'm very happy we're doing this in Laguna Beach, but we really need to have a discussion about some of these items.
Can we get your name, please,
Sharon Fitzsimons,
and your address?
709 Catalina Street.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Good evening, and Shavetta, I have a document there, if you could bring that up. My name is Richard Plavitich. I'm at 455 Los Robles, about 3 blocks away from the project. So I'll start off by saying that the 29 unit count seems reasonable, and it's in line with the city's 2021 housing element recommendations. Had we started this discussion here instead of with the 72 unit proposal from 2 years ago, all concerned would have saved a lot of time, stress, and expense. I also give some credit to Related. I do appreciate the job that you've done to try and mitigate some of the concerns about views. Please keep it going. There's still some work to be done there, but do appreciate your efforts. However, my discussion here tonight is about parking. There's only 41 parking spaces, and that's not a real-world solution for NCC, Montessori, and the 29 residential units plus local business use. The current site has 79 marked spaces. I know the city says 69. I counted. There's 79 painted spaces in that parking lot today. This gets cut almost in half while adding 29 residential units, 58% of which are 2 or 3 bedroom. There are only 23 spaces for residents, and according to the plans that were submitted to the city, these are classified as shared under religious use. So in other words, according to the plans submitted, there's no dedicated parking for the church. Again, these are all per the city plans. So if we look at the chart that I have up here on the wall here, so we can see that today's situation where we were just over a year ago when it was a 44 unit proposal back then, the minimum required parking was 89 spaces. Today, moving forward, the minimum has dropped to 41 spaces. I don't understand the SB4 rules and how they got down that low, but that's where it is. So of those 41, 23 are residential with shared religious use. 11 are dedicated to Montessori per the conditional use permit and the plan submitted to the city, and 6 for general use. Again, these are the city numbers and related numbers in the documents that have been submitted. Alice's Court, by comparison, they have 27 studio units, so probably 1 person per unit. They have 50 parking spaces in that structure. So is that realistic to think that 41 spaces are going to suffice for 29 units, the church, Montessori, and business use? So I know that we'll hear claims that many residents won't have cars. I don't think that's realistic. I doubt any valet company is going to be able to find space for cars during NCC events when the surrounding area is already overburdened. And finally, if we could go forward a slide and one more slide. In the upper right corner, you'll see fire department access, and that's just going to enable residents to use parking in the neighborhoods and make even more congestion. So I would expect, or I would request that there be some kind of restriction on flow through that gate so the neighborhoods aren't impacted.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
Hi, my name's Monica Mershon. I live at 390 St. Anne's. So Susan, you came to see my view. Thank you for doing that. My house is adjacent to the project. I'm very much affected. My family moved to Laguna in 2021 and thought our home views would be protected along with our investment. The adjustments that Related said will allow my view not to be obstructed need to be proven to me, not based on their word or their picture. Unfortunately, I've had trouble believing what they have said to me over the years. The story poles now block views from both decks, my dining room, and then also my master bedroom. The proposed change to the roof line will still obstruct my view from my master deck completely. And the view at my property is not the same view as the view from the property across the street on Catalina, Lisa's house. So that type of misstatement by Related today is proof that, they just, it's very hard to believe what they say. I am left with no protections in my property, my family home. I feel very powerless. The additional concession for the setback directly affects my property, where the building wall will be, 5 feet from my privacy, my property, my family. And then the traffic, they did a memo, but why can't we ask for a traffic impact analysis, which has been done for projects like this in the past? The retaining wall is a huge concern of mine because my house is on a hill, and that retaining wall, who knows what will be found. There has been no communication between Related and me about the retaining wall. And I would hope that maybe that's a way to decline this request or not approve it, because if that is in your power to have some say in the retaining wall, that is a huge concern of mine on the record for 390 St. Anne's. There's been no communication, and I can't trust that he's committed, or Related is committed to working with me, because there has been no concessions that are proven to help protect my view so far. So I don't know why I would believe that they would make them in the future after approval. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Adam Redding Kaufman. I'm speaking tonight as an individual. I'm going to talk about 4 things, if I can fit it all into the time frame here. I'm going to talk about the congregation. I'm going to talk about circular reasoning, the motion of the ocean, and tough pills to swallow. So first, in terms of the congregation, the church voted for this. And if there's one thing that you think about tonight, I'd strongly encourage you to think about the fact that most of the speakers in opposition are not saying save the church or protect the property. They're just saying fight the housing. Second, there's a lot of circular reasoning going on here with the parking situation in town, especially with this project too. When the city tries to build parking and provide more parking, the members of the town oppose it. And then when the city tries to build projects that could, support the housing element, support city goals, support state mandated things, the people complain about taking away the parking. And what's really interesting about the parking problem is that you can use Google Earth to look at satellite images taken throughout the years and look at how many spots are occupied. And when you review old satellite images of the church parking lot, the parking spaces are never full. So to me, this doesn't seem like a property that is supplying major like spots for a lot of visitors or spots for a lot of residents in town. Third topic, motion of the ocean. The town has mentioned this specific property in its housing element. The town has identified this spot previously, and that leads me to my final point, the tough pill to swallow. This is state mandated housing. This is a state mandate. So if you oppose this project tonight, this problem is going to come back to bite you later on. And if it's not you, it's future committee members. So this isn't going away, and I'd strongly encourage you to support this project. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name's Diane Harrison, and I am fully supporting this project. One of the reasons is I've watched over the past few years as NCC and Related have proven to be really good neighbors, revising this project, being cognizant of views and concerns. When the project first started, that wasn't the done deal. That was the whole point, to work and see how this could be a better project for the community. The other concern I have is this is the only project in town for affordable housing. We're getting towards the end of this cycle of the housing element. We have nothing, our city has nothing to show for it for affordable housing. This is the only project in the works. To not let this project go through means we have done nothing in the 10 years that we've been working on this housing project. A vibrant, diverse city needs to support housing at all income levels. We know that. I think the city believes that. So we have to, if we believe that, we have to do something about it. We have, you know, I'm hearing people say, well, how do we know who will exactly live here? Well, we know, you can ask your neighbors. Well, they're adult children, people they work with, people are being priced out of here. It's not just one segment, it's lots of people. We can't have a community that's vibrant, lively, making progress if we don't have more affordable housing. So if we approve this project, it shows that the city is truly interested in not just making a state mandate, but a community mandate for us. So I fully support this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is David Cucuck. I live at 361 Cleo Street. I heard the architect discuss many changes that they've been entertaining with residents or neighbors of the property. I live directly adjacent to our property line is the church's property line, and I've never heard from them. I appreciate the council members asking about the Cleo residents. I heard that a couple of times, and not once did I hear anything from the applicant stating that they spoke with anyone on Cleo. In fact, they discussed St. Anne's, they discussed Catalina, and changes that they've made with landscaping and roof lines and everything else to accommodate many of them. But as a Cleo resident, I would appreciate some of those same accommodations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Chair, Council members. My name is Cesar Covarrubias. I'm the Executive Director of the Kennedy Commission, an organization that works to increase affordable housing opportunities throughout Orange County. We are here to support you and asking you to support this approval of this development. This is not a conversation that started yesterday or 2 years ago. It's more like 4 years ago when we were talking about the housing element. The city had the opportunity to have a conversation in terms of where sites could be identified for affordable housing and for market rate development. And this was one of the sites, one of the few sites, if not the only site that was really viable for affordable housing. And as a result, we are here today now with the presentation of a development. And this is what housing elements are really about. Housing plans that can be implemented that ultimately produce housing for all income segments in your community. And Laguna has done a decent job of producing market rate housing. Unfortunately, not very well in doing affordable housing. As we know, the last development in the city was Ellis Court. That's about 21, 22 years ago or so. This is the opportunity that we all have been working towards to ensure that there is housing available for all residents in our community and for those who work and also who work in the city or are not able to live in the city. So it's important to take this responsibility in light of the crisis that's happening here in Orange County, more specifically in your city, where very few opportunities exist for lower income families to be able to thrive. And just to put some context to what affordable housing is in Orange County, these are families making $30,000 all the way to $90,000. So it's not necessarily a problem just at the lower end, but development of housing is needed at all income segments, especially for these categories. I would urge you to approve this development as presented. I think there is a lot of willingness from the developer also to continue to work with you and move forward with a project that all we can be part of. Thank you.
Thank you, Cesar.
Hi, my name is Danny Palomino, and I am the daughter of the owner of 370 St. Anne's, which is a duplex immediately adjacent to the development. And I'm glad that Related is trying to work with us regarding the retaining wall and the height and possibly providing some screening for our side of the wall to kind of, because it's smack dab, especially from the lower unit. We'll just see building basically. So, but I also wanted to just talk about this affordable housing thing because I'm for affordable housing, but I think it's a matter of scale. I would love to see something like bungalow courts go in, something for people to actually purchase that was affordable housing. I think that is what we really need to do for young families. Aesthetics are a big deal. That's usually my complaint about affordable housing because you see big blocks with flat windows and, boxes. This is better than that, but, it's a problem, all these synthetic materials. The other thing I think we need to think about, just to talk about the parking. Someone said they looked at Google Maps and the church parking lot was always empty. Well, of course, no one knows they're allowed to park in the church parking lot. It's going to be full on a Sunday and it's going to be empty on other days. People aren't just going to go park there. And the last thing, I am a survivor of the Eaton fire. I did not lose my home, but after the fire, I was lucky enough to be able to stay in my dad's duplex for 3 months. And I submitted a video basically showing us that I took at the time, driving from St. Anne's just to get on the freeway. And this is a normal day of traffic. And it was at least 20 minutes before you get actually to the full highway. So I know that they say that this is not a severe fire zone, but okay, so I have to end. But this is an issue, getting in and out, and especially if some people aren't going to have cars in the units, how are they going to get out? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Bob Borthwick. I live in kind of the extended neighborhood down on Brooks. My wife and I were pretty active in this church back in the 90s, and I was on the board then. And so we have a lot of fond memories of this church campus with all sorts of events, as probably most people in this room have. I had a few technical things I wanted to bring up. First of all, I like the color palette. I think the color palette is understated. I think the dark color is a good complement to the existing buildings. And it's understated and it's not shouting out in the neighborhood. I like that. I had the same question that George did about the stone. I was hoping it was not going to be faux stone. I know faux stone is very common in the building industry, but I was thinking a brick, like the columns right out here outside the city hall, would be comparable cost to faux stone, and it would be a real material, and there would be nothing faux on the building. So it's just a thought. I think it goes with that 50s apartment style look. And then the last sort of technical thing is I was looking at the elevations, and the Glenary elevation. I was curious if you took off the unit that's above the clubhouse, then it would be a step back elevation on the Glenary side, and it would, I think, soften that elevation and give a little bit less mass to the structure. And I think that could be an improvement. It would lose one unit though. And lastly, my kids grew up in Laguna and went to school in the 80s. And some of their best friends were single parent households, kids from single parent households that one of them I can remember in particular, his mom was a secretary at the city hall. Another one, his mom was a waitress. And those kids couldn't have grown up in Laguna under current situation with cost of housing. So I love those two kids. And I think there's more kids out there like that would really benefit from our schools and our environment. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Ann Christoph. And I was very active in refuting or objecting to the previous project with the 70+ units. And the main thing that I concentrated on was the proposed demolition of the 2 historic buildings. And I forwarded to you the report that a consultant donated to the effort to show the historic significance of those 2 buildings. We submitted that to the city way back, and apparently Savetta never got a copy of it. And so the staff report says there are no historic buildings on the site. Now, we know they're not put on the register, but that report documents that they are eligible for the state historic register. And I want to be sure that that is in the record and I'm very appreciative that the flexibility of Related and the church itself has allowed the preservation of those buildings. But I want to make sure that our documentation and the action that the Planning Commission takes acknowledges that preservation so that going forward, someone is not saying, oh, well, that report just said there were no significant buildings, and which is not the case. I also agree with Bob's comment regarding the setback from Glen Eyrie. I think if you look at the front elevation of the building as seen from Glen Eyrie, that upper building obscures part of the historic buildings and to me looks too tall, would benefit from a setback. And also the fake stone. I'd rather see stucco than fake stone, but his suggestion for brick is great. Lastly, I just, in the last few months, received a call from an artist friend of mine who was able to get a unit at Vista Aliso affordable housing project above Fred Lang Park. And that's exactly the kind of story that we want to foster. And so I appreciate the idea that we're having affordable housing to provide places for people like him to stay in our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Elizabeth Hansberg, and I'm with the housing advocacy organization, People for Housing Orange County. I'm here to support this project. You've heard from many articulate speakers about the reasons that you should. SB4 provides some protections. It's in your housing element, the diversity of community members, the need, right? The affordable housing shortage that exists in Orange County and all of California, and especially in coastal communities like Laguna Beach. And all of those are very good reasons, but I'm going to appeal to a different reason. And the reason is that this church community, they are your neighbors, and they are doing something to make room for other neighbors. And I want you to support them in that. I want you to be willing to make room in your community so that this faith community can make room for the people who need affordable housing. Love knows no greater gift than this, that a man should lay down his life for his friend. And this church community was ready to lay down their entire property. negotiations and back and forth, and we're not there anymore. But they were willing to make room. So I'm asking you, as their neighbors, don't nitpick this project apart. Don't argue over stone and walls. Don't find a reason to stall them so that they can't make their July tax credit application deadline. Move the project forward and make room the way that your neighbors are making room. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. My
Hey,
name is
everybody make sure you sign in.
The pen is dead. You have a new pen?
Let's get a new pen, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Zoe Bond, and I am a junior at Laguna Beach High School. I am here to speak in favor of the affordable housing development at 340 St. Anne's. I have attended this church since I was about 3 years old, and I have grown up with the community surrounding it and the people, many of whom are in this room today, and it has been wonderful to thrive in. And I believe that this is the best next step for our church. Affordable housing is very important to allow those who have lower wages to live here, and that diversity is important to me. I want to be an architect, and it is my goal to create affordable housing for people all over. Since I have lived in Laguna my whole life, I know what an amazing town it is, and I want more people to be able to experience the wonderfulness that we have here. I don't believe it's healthy as a community to only have wealthy people. Studies have shown that a town's diversity is its strength. Not only does it keep vitality in terms of dialogue, but it supports local businesses too. When you look at the data for our town, the largest employers are hotels, city, and school employees. Our town would be more vital with options for them to live and work here. Please vote yes for this development. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Julie Hall, and first of all, thank you. I mean, this is incredible that this has got this far to nearly have this project actually happening. I just wanted to mention a couple of things. I live in Vista Aliso, which is, as you know, built back in the 80s, was partly a school and then became affordable housing. So 40 years on, there has never been anything of that size to provide what is affordable low income, very low income. So to have this, as people said, it was 71, but 29 is just a huge achievement. And the only unit of low income new housing in the last 20 years in Laguna Beach has been one unit. 29 will be a great addition. And what the young lady was saying, I would just echo.
Please talk to the Planning Commission.
I just wanted to say, hearing the young voice of the young lady, it is so vital. Very quickly, a couple of points that came up. Someone mentioned, I was saying, if not now, when? I think I just said to that, now is the time, no question. And also, if not here, where? We know Laguna is built out, and so having a location like this is probably just one of a couple where you could actually have a project walkable to town, vital for seniors, and for anyone working here. Someone mentioned they thought it could be people from Kansas. It won't be people who actually work in the city. At Vista Aliso, my neighbors, they are people who lifelong worked in restaurants, worked in retail. Some still are artists who thought they were going to be priced out, who've been here for years. And so with the mixed use housing here, the fact that with this project, there are so few members of the police department or firefighters or other first responders who actually live in Laguna. Someone mentioned there's only one route in and one route out. If there's a fire, well, it would be great to have people from those services actually starting off living with us in the city rather than having to get in and not have a place that they're already part of the community. And lastly, young people, the gentleman who mentioned about his children and how much they gained from a diversity of children who were their peers, how great that was for their education. Again, falling roles in Laguna Beach, the school roles, another school might close unless we actually say, if not now, when? Now, please. And thank you to the commission and to the church and to all the members of the community who have come together and made these compromises. Sorry.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Carrie Reynolds. I live at 223 Fairview Street in North Laguna. I don't know if any of you were lucky enough to see Laguna Ticks last year, but there's a housing element that throughout the entire skit, Chris and Bree wrote it in so that that housing element comes to the dance line and they say, we want you, but just not there. And that housing unit moves about the play throughout the entire skit. It's very funny. But the fact is, thank goodness for this law in California, because it's forcing all of you into tough decisions. And I'm a consumer research person by profession. Retail needs diversity. Our retailers, restaurants, everyone can say, San Juan, Dana Point, wow, they really see crowds. They have a younger audience. We have a very old town. We have a very affluent town. We have a lot of second homes, but the consumer research I have, I'm a multi-unit retail research person, and I know this is just the beginning. 29's barely going to tip it, but keep doing the hard work, guys. Thank you. I support it.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Alan Warren. At the last meeting on this project, which was at the Neighborhood Congregational Church, at the end of the meeting, there were specific questions about the federal low-income financing for low-income and moderate-income projects. And what came out at that meeting at Neighborhood Congregational Church was this project, since the beginning, has been presented as our seniors age, we don't want them forced out of town because they can't afford the rents. As artists in town, it's an incredible community. We don't want them forced out of town because they can't afford the rents. People who work in Laguna and have a job in Laguna would if they could have affordable housing. That is the way it was presented from the very beginning. And what came out at that meeting, and I talked to Bill Whitty personally at the end of the meeting, and two of the people from Related admitted it, in order to get the federal low-income interest loan, which is somewhere between 40 and 60% of the project, you cannot discriminate amongst applicants for the apartments based on they live in Laguna, they work in Laguna. It's going to be open to everybody. And people made the point. People in Anaheim, people in Riverside, people in San Bernardino are going to hear about it. And Related presented the point, well, we're going to target it to the Laguna Beach Senior Center. We're going to have we'll have the applicants. But people brought up, and I talked to Bill Whitty personally at the end of it, you cannot specify that there is any preference to Laguna Beach residents. So if 96% of the applicants are from not Laguna or not even Orange County, that's what percentage are going to be picked in a lottery. And that is part of the condition of getting the low interest loan. And I asked Bill Whitty, what percentage of this project is low interest loan? And he said somewhere between 40 and 60%. What's the interest rate? So the idea that we're doing this for seniors who are being forced out of town because they can't afford the rents, we're doing it for artists, is not true. And that's the legal basis when you read the law. I talked to Bob Whalen. We looked at it originally when they were going to sell the land, which didn't allow the state thing. Diane Dixon, who is representing the 47th district here and is running for supervisor in November, is starting a proposition. It would be like Prop 13 that would be on the ballot in 2 years from this November that would take back the ability for zoning and land use to cities and counties. because the state is running roughshod over people. And I ask you to postpone the project until there's absolute proof that this can be for Laguna Beach residents or people who work in Laguna but do not currently live in Laguna. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commission. I'm Barbara McMurray. I live at 600 Diamond Street. I echo what Diane said about the dismal results of the housing element, years and years of talk, nothing to show for it. And we all know that Laguna Beach, like so many coastal cities, we're not alone in this, has not fulfilled its low, very low, and even moderate income housing element requirements for decades. Like most coastal cities, Laguna Beach has a pattern of underproducing affordable units while doing a real bang-up job on the above moderate, that is the market rate housing. Yay us. Diversity, though, is strength. Ellis Court was the last affordable housing project. It was designed back in the last millennium. Most people don't even know when they drive by that it's affordable housing because it's so attractive and well-maintained. And nobody cares if it has fake stone. Its residents contribute to the community. They're active in the churches and the Suzy Q, and they walk most places. The place is way overparked, as we know, but we won't get into that. But at the insistence of a lot of factions, it was another level was added, and it's all parking and it's all empty most of the time because those people don't have cars. Anyway, I wanted to also address some unkind comments I've seen floating around online, especially about greed, about this project being based on greed. It's the complete opposite. Cody mentioned that NCC could have taken the money and run. They could have moved their congregation to a leased space with the money and sold it to the highest bidder, and we could have seen maybe designs for luxury homes that would have been fought over for years and years behind a chain link fence. It would have become an eyesore as the battle raged over its development. But NCC took the time, and I have huge gratitude to them. They put in the time and the toil. It's been 5 years that with a timely assist from SB4 to carry out its very sincere mission of caring for people. They saw a way to do that by creating places for them to live, a precious and vital commodity, even more so now in the housing market as it is now. So with their dedication, leadership, and all these years of hard work and the patience, as a biblical reference, patience of Job, they have presented us with a great opportunity, really a gift for our community, to do the thing that it has promised the HCD, to complete a small portion of its required RHNA number, that is 198 low-income units, 28 units, and a unit for a manager. That's modest and humble, and in fact, a very generous effort from NCC to the community. So this is the moment, this is the project. I respectfully add my voice to those asking that the commissioners vote tonight to get the NCC project over the finish line. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no other speakers, I'm going to quickly close the public hearing.
Rebuttal.
So this is an opportunity for the applicant, who I saw taking notes. We'd ask you to, if you'd like to, contribute any thoughts to some of the comments that were made.
I would.
Yep.
I would. Retaining walls seem to be the heights of retaining walls. Retaining walls just in total seem to be a very hot topic. And I just wanted to remind everybody that those retaining walls are existing right now. They're going to be rebuilt because they're old, they're falling apart, but we're not changing the grades. We're not retaining more, we're not retaining less. They're really staying at that grade from our side. So, you know, there should be no difference. We're going to be shoring those retaining walls. As we pull the walls off, we'll be shoring to stabilize the wall, and then we'll be rebuilding those walls with better, more durable, materials. So I just wanted to make that clear, that very little change to heights of retaining walls, maintaining. A comment in regarding one of the slides that a neighbor submitted in a PowerPoint regarding fire resistance and windows, vinyl windows being a poor choice for the project. They're very good choices, very durable window. That window will give us 25, 30 years of life. And regarding fire, I just wanted to remind everybody that this is a fully, sprinklered building. Every unit, every corridor, all the common areas, the garages is fully sprinklered. This building's not going to, the fire's not going to spread within. So I just wanted to make clear that there are no concerns regarding these windows failing from a fire inside. Those were my comments.
There were a number of comments about parking and how that is all calculated. It is true that we are requesting 23 spaces for the residential. We are providing 41 in total, and that technically it exceeds what the government code requires. So, I don't have any more comments on with respect to the parking itself. I'm trying to think if there is.
I could add to that parking. There was a comment regarding a greater number of parking stalls provided when we had that larger scheme, the 44 unit scheme. And that was because it was a different parking ratio. That when the church was going to be demolished and a new church built, we applied a different parking ratio to the church that really drove the number of parking. And we had a bigger footprint for a parking garage. So that's why the big change in parking stalls from the 44 unit scheme with the new NCC, the proposed new facility versus what we're proposing now had the variation of, I think it was about 40 to 45 parking stalls.
Can you comment on the Clio Street edge?
Yes. So we did talk to neighbors across from Clio that were at Clio and Catalina. They had a great view. They were perched above. We did have community outreach meetings. We had a number of community outreach meetings, and that's how we got to know our neighbors and neighbors that had concerns. They approached us at those meetings. We're very approachable. We talked to everybody and started working with them. But regarding the Clio elevation, we did work with neighbors that were on the corner of Catalina and Clio, and they told us right away that that elevation, when it was a 3-story project, 4 stories, excuse me, counting the garage, was a massive elevation. It looked like a Radisson Inn. It needed work, and that's when we started receiving comments from neighbors over on that side, from the neighbor on that side that approached us. We took the story off. We took a complete story off, that elevation. Now it's considered 3 stories, 2 stories of residential. And with further comments from the commission, breaking it up into 2 color schemes, I think we're there.
Can you,
And
go ahead.
I was just going to also note that for those community meetings that we had, we did send out notices to owners within 300 feet of the property and also to residents within 500 feet of the property. So we did attempt to reach out to invite people to those meetings. And as Barry mentioned, there were a number that actually came to us. We had all our contact information on those notices as well.
Okay. Can you speak to the preferences in terms of tenancy?
Sure. The gentleman who spoke about that, he was slightly mistaken, I believe. We are allowed to provide a preference for people that work in Laguna Beach. But he is also correct that it would be discrimination if we objected in any way to somebody from outside who lives outside of Laguna Beach who applied for this project. So we cannot provide a preference for people who reside in Laguna Beach.
But if there's a policeman or a school teacher who can currently not live in Laguna, but work in Laguna, they can be given a preference.
That's correct.
Okay, thanks for clearing that up.
That's correct.
Can I add one more comment regarding the Clio?
Yes.
There was a very important one. There was a comment about trash, and currently the process of collecting trash is a very loud process. It's at the rear of the site. I just wanted to let everyone know the trash is, even though we're increasing the capacity of trash, it is located in the parking garage, and the bins from the parking garage, from the trash chutes, the corral, they will be pulled out to the street and collected there out to Glen Eyrie. So any impact to the noise of trash, collection at the rear of the site or anywhere along those Clio homes there, that's now going to be, you're not going to hear any trash dumping, and those, bins will be collected and brought out to Glen Eyrie Street. So that should rectify that concern.
Does the Planning Commission have additional questions of the applicant?
Yeah.
Yes.
I did want to make a clarification on the preference for people that work in Laguna Beach. We are still subject to fair housing laws. So we cannot just immediately allow all people who work in Laguna Beach complete 100% preference. What I'm trying to say is there is the possibility that there will be residents from outside of Laguna Beach that will be living in this project. We have to abide by all fair housing regulations.
Correct. And so, Chair, if I may just add to that briefly, that the idea of preference for projects like this, it's very, very much a case-by-case basis. And what I mean by that is there are certain, obviously, as the gentleman said, kind of fair housing laws. There's also constitutional issues, due process, equal protection. Obviously not the case here. However, if in doing the study, we realized that our working population was insert 95% of a certain ethnicity, religion, or sex, we would need to take that into consideration because someone's going to say, hey, you're discriminating against me. So it's a little bit outside the purview of the Planning Commission, particularly too for the formal resolutions. However, if it's the Planning Commission's desire to direct staff to further flesh that out and look into that, we would be open to that. But I would advise you to not include that into any of the specific resolutions because that affordability program and affordability covenant is going to be a future issue down the road should this project proceed. Thank you, Chair.
Understood. I just thought it'd be good to clarify.
And if I could add to that, we could also affirmatively market to people within Laguna Beach. So in other words, we would perhaps run an ad in a local newspaper versus running an ad in the Los Angeles Times.
I don't think you're going to have to run any ads.
I don't think so either, but
I have
I
a
just
question.
wanted to point that out.
I have a question on that.
Yes, go ahead. Yes, Commissioner Goldman.
Yeah, thanks. In your experience, have you ever had situations where anybody files a lawsuit or makes a challenge on the basis that they were outside of a community and were discriminated against having an opportunity to live in the affordable housing in favor of people inside the community?
I don't believe we have, no.
Okay.
Well, what was your experience at Alice Court in terms of who the residents were?
I can't really speak to Alice Court, that process, because it was before my time here.
Uh-oh.
So
I was active with Alice Court, but in the design and construction capacity, I did not handle the lease up, so I apologize. I don't know that, but I can report back to you tomorrow.
That's okay. Okay, so I think where we're at is Planning Commissioner discussion.
Did you close the hearing?
Yeah, well, the public hearing is closed. Commissioners, who would like to go first?
I'll take a crack at it. I have some notes here, but I want to say one thing that I really strongly believe in, and that is that communities where the workforce in the community can live in the community builds a stronger community. And I'm a really huge believer in that. And I've been a renter in Laguna Beach for 50 years and have, in the last couple of years, potentially was going to lose my, where I live and work because the property was going to get sold. And fortunately, the city got involved and created a community land trust, and those properties are now under the ownership of the land trust, which will help keep them affordable in perpetuity for that segment of the population. Now, it's really, I really am, believe that, we have, most of our fire department, our police department, people who work in the restaurants, probably 95% of them can't afford to live in Laguna Beach. When you have kids who grew up here, went off to college, and can't afford to come back to their hometown, I mean, it's pretty sad in my book, in my estimation. And I think the city, we've been a little complacent here in terms of over 20, 30 years, we've felt like everything's kind of going along fine. And now with the housing shortage, not just in Laguna, but in all of California and all over the country, our state government has created a lot of new housing laws that affect all communities in California. And it's sort of a one-size-fits-all approach. And it's something that, they should have been working on 20 or 30 years ago. And it's now we're playing catch up here. So, it's something that has been problematic here in Laguna for a long time because rents have gone way up. When I moved here in my early 20s, my apartment was $300 and my studio space was $175. And at the time, that was a jump up from where I was in Costa Mesa, but it was still affordable. But now, of course, everything has exponentially gone up in price. I know that this project's been in the works for, as you've said, at least 5 years. It could have gone a very different direction. I think we've all been watching it. We've watched the scale of it come down significantly based on community input and neighborhood input. And I know that there'll be some neighbors that are, going to be unhappy no matter what you do. You could try to accommodate whatever, but I think based on the SB 9 law and what you've done to accommodate as much as possible and still make the project worth doing, and it's a tough one because we have very little input that we can give, and I know a lot of my questions I had before the meeting, I spoke with council on them, and it was best just to scratch them off the list. So, and that's fine. I think that it's been thoroughly vetted. You guys have done a pretty amazing job to get it to a point where it's an approvable project for our community. And I think that as far as the density bonuses and all that stuff, it's pretty much right where it needs to be. And I'm not a proponent of changing anything except for the few things that we discussed during our conversation. I like the scheme too, or the alternative scheme, the color scheme you guys came up with. I think that improves the visual look of the project. I would, as per suggestion, if the split face block was something that you could turn to just to give a little more texture to those retaining walls, that'd be great. And as far as your desire to do a piece of public art out front, I think that's amazing since it's not a requirement that you do that at all. So I hope that, it feels like the majority of people are understanding of this need. It's a state mandate, and we can't go on pretending it doesn't exist any longer. And I wish we would have gotten into the idea of affordable housing, 20 or 30 years ago, but this is where we are now. So, and, as far as CEQA and the coastal development permit findings, I can make all those. Actually, the CEQA isn't even part of this. So, with those suggested changes in terms of just some of the visual aesthetics, I'm going to be approving your request for approval. So,
Commissioner Goldman.
Yeah, the first comment I would like to make is a follow-on and to emphasize, I thought George was very eloquent on the community. You know, I think the sense of community, the ability to have people who work in the community, the ability to have them live in the community, and the ability to keep children to stay in and raise their families, and elderly as well to stay. I think that's extremely important. You know, a comment I'd like to make, my wife is very active in the food pantry, so I can give this statistic with a degree of certainty. I'm not sure people realize that the majority of shoppers at the food pantry live, work, or go to school in Laguna Beach. This means the waiters, the cooks, the landscapers, the housekeepers, the policemen, the teachers, the students. They use the food pantry, and I think it's incumbent upon us, you know, to provide living services as well, so you know people can afford to live here as well. I'd also like to say, you know, generally we have many situations where there's the balance between the resident's right and the developer or the property owner's right of the property that's being heard. And I had back and forth with Patrick, which thank you, Patrick, earlier today, you know, just to understand what our purview was and what we could and couldn't do in that. So, you know, we were unable to do much about impacts to the immediate neighbors. But I did get a sense of relief from the applicant. It does seem, and when I met with the applicant, you know, we spoke about this, what they were doing for the residents. It does seem like the applicant is trying to do the best that they can do to accommodate the residents. So, you know, I'm happy that while we have a narrow scope and couldn't really comment much on it or do much on it, the residents are being heard. I also agree with the alternative color scheme. I mean, I think the look of the different buildings is nicer. And as well, I'm supportive of the project. You know, particularly given our narrow scope here of what we can and can't comment on. The thing I can comment on is being overly supportive of putting more affordable housing into Laguna Beach. So I will also support the project.
All yours.
Thank you. We're lucky there's SB4 because I truly believe we wouldn't be here without it. This is a very important project for all the reasons that people have said and the reasons people are supporting this project. I want to just go through a list of a few things. This is, as one of the speakers said, this is a state mandate. And the project meets all the requirements of SB4 related to CEQA, ministerial design review. They're entitled to utilize the density bonus law, which is what entitles them to the waivers and concessions, specifically parking, which there was a lot of discussion about here. So it is legal, and it is not within our purview not to approve it. Secondly, I want to say I cannot make the findings under the Housing Accountability Act not to approve the concessions and waivers and not to approve the project. There are no impacts that I perceive on coastal resources, and so I can't make any of those findings that would need to be made to deny the project tonight. We are entitled to design review of the 4 elements, the retaining wall, which we've talked about, and I agree with all the comments on those, and the applicant's willingness to plant vines and revise a landscape plan related to it. I'm not concerned about the failure of the retaining wall because of the best practices construction requirement and bonding and so forth that will be put in place for the construction of the retaining wall. Regarding the landscape, to make the changes that we discussed, which would provide better screening of the house from Catalina and remove trees that will not grow well down there at the bottom of the wall. And those are our voluntary discretionary review, and I think there's broad consensus about that. Regarding the merger of the 4 parcels and the separation into two parcels, one for the church and one for the housing. I can make all the findings for that. And then next, I feel all these voluntary agreements that are being made here, I have confidence that the developer will honor them. The ones that we've talked about are the changes to the building color and the window frame color, the lowering of the building height to respond to the neighborhood's view impacts, the landscape, and the landscape. I mean, those are the two main ones, being the building color and the view. My experience is this is an unusually responsive developer. And I worked in the industry for a while, and it's pretty rare to see this much agreement and compromise. And it's more than compromise. It's stepping forward and trying to create a project that is going to be beloved by the community. And, you know, there is the pressure that the emeritus director lives in town, but there's also the track record of Alice Court, which is a very high quality development. And why would they want to do anything less than that? They wouldn't. And plus they've got God on their side. How can they not? How can they not? So I fully support this project, and I'm very excited to see it happening, something finally happening, you know. And even though we really object to having government meddle in local affairs, in this case, I think it's, in this project, and in all affordable housing projects going forward, it really benefits us.
Thank you. I'm going to start with more of the technicalities on the Coastal Act. I do believe that this project harmonizes with the Coastal Act. It does not have any specific adverse impacts. I find the merger of lots is consistent with the spirit of the project and the spirit of the, and also the spirit of the Coastal Act, in that it puts more people of varying incomes within the coastal zone, which is exactly one of the primary goals of the Coastal Commission. One of the things that the Coastal Act specifically talks about is not making modifications that would make the project infeasible. And I think we have to make sure that when we talk about removing units and making any kind of major changes, we have to walk a fine line there. Other comments, I'm supportive of Scheme 2, and I was sitting here realizing, you know, I had questions I was going to ask staff, but Patrick answered them before I could ask them. And, you know, like, what about view equity? What about neighborhood compatibility? And his answer is no. Don't even bring those things up. Those are completely out of the purview of what we can do, given the state law mandates and constraints. Well, guess what? The proponent actually did it anyway. I mean, all the changes that they've done are completely about those two topics, about neighborhood compatibility and view equity, and they didn't have to do any of it. They didn't have to do any of it. I like the idea of the split face block. I believe that the 15 requirements for SB4 were well described and met in the staff report. And I'll point out that they could have had a higher density. They could have had more units. They toyed with that, but it flew in the face of those other two goals. So their density bonus, they took less. And I agree with Susan that I cannot see or demonstrating a significant unmitigable impact to the public health, safety, or the environment, which are the only tests that we could raise to actually not approve this project, and they just don't exist. The topics we're talking about fall far short of that test. The parking requirements, do they pass a sense of practicality? I don't know. I guess we'll see. But I know in speaking with Bill and his experience that I know everybody thinks affordable units have a lot of cars, but it's not necessarily so. If you look at other affordable, projects, and the fact is that the calculations they're using are completely consistent with the state law, and so there's really nothing we can say about it. The setback of the second story, I'm not supportive of that idea because the whole building is already set back. I mean, it would be like, I would say, well, why don't you build another unit on the ground floor and push out closer to the setback that you could do? That would create a setback, but they're not doing that. So I think the setback of that component, and I would, on the design review components, these 4 components, I guess we could create some conditions on those, if we wanted to. I mean, we actually do have some leverage, using those components. But I'm just going to request that, you did mail out to everybody, and everybody had a chance to come to a meeting. Maybe they're out of town, who knows? They couldn't be there, and so they feel like they were left out of a process. So I would just suggest that any residents who felt they were not part and didn't talk to you, that they can still reach out to you, right? And I would hope that you would be receptive to talking to those neighbors on Clio that maybe have some concerns. The landscape issues along there are no different than the landscape issues on St. Anne's. The building's pretty big along that edge. It's pretty massive. There's not much space. So anything that you can do to help think about the landscape palette, bring in some larger vertical plant material in that small space. But I would hope that you would, in the good faith that you've already made the changes that you've made, continue to address those particular, the preference issue. I think we talked about that. It's a fine line. I know there is no yes or no. It's like you do, everybody knows what we want to happen. And I think you'll do it. On the grading, there's 400 cubic yards. It seems like a lot on a big project. It's not that much compared to a lot of other big projects. If we didn't want to move the 400 yards, we could just raise the building up another 5 or 6 feet, and then we wouldn't have to move the dirt. But so the whole grading issue is trying to achieve some of these other issues. I think Susan's addressed the landscape. I could care less about the deck. So, and I think on the retaining wall, I think structurally it's fine. I would encourage you to be sensitive, and do whatever we can do. And I'd ask staff the building department's going to probably just, give you more guidance than you'd ever want. So I'm just going to conclude in that, I just want to thank Related and Bill Whitty. Bill, I see this as a legacy project for Bill Whitty. He's been building affordable housing for most of his career. He does it. There are a lot of other things he could have built, and I think, and your company as well. And it's because you believe in it. You believe it's a public benefit. And so I just want to thank you and Bill for having the perseverance of seeing this thing through. It would have been so easy for you to walk away from. And I just want to remind anybody who continues to be against this project, just remind them that they could have built 41 units. There's nothing keeping them from building 41 units and building a taller building. Everything, all the adjustments they've made have been completely voluntary in maintaining and being a citizen in the town of Laguna Beach. So you might have guessed I'm favorable towards the project.
One other comment I want to make, that I'm sure everybody agrees, and we've been remiss to say, a very thorough and detailed staff report. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, it was a very good staff report. Very longest one I think I've seen for a while. Okay, so
So how do we incorporate into the resolution the changes that were discussed that cannot be conditioned? The voluntary discussion that we had,
Right,
the
so-
discussion about voluntary change.
Correct. So once again, typically we base it off of plans and then you guys impose conditions. For this one, for the ministerial, I believe something along the lines of, the approval is based off of the plan submitted as modified and agreed to by the applicant during the hearing tonight. I want to confer with staff. Is that sufficiently detailed enough? Okay.
would somebody,
I just want to make it clear that that roof change, the reduction in the roof height is shown on that alternate color scheme. So it is documented there.
yes,
And that was alternative 2? Is that
it's, we'll call it the alternative,
the alternative? Got it.
the alternative plan. Yeah, everything's shown on that. Hey, does somebody want to take a
Sure.
crack at it?
Yeah. Mm, With the addition of the wording from the city attorney, the planning commission moves adoption of the two following resolutions. One, resolution number 2026-1135, attachment 1, approving ministerial design review 2026-1135 for demolition of an existing parsonage building and existing surface parking lot and construction of a multifamily residential building, 28 affordable housing rental units and 1 manager's unit, and 41 stall parking garage. Design review 2026-0863 for site improvements associated with the multifamily residential building, including grading, retaining walls, landscaping, and elevated deck. And coastal development permit 2026-0864 for such non-exempt development within the coastal zone at 340 St. Anne's Drive in the local business professional and residential medium density R2 zones. And finding that no further environmental review is required under state CEQA guidelines section 15162, or alternatively is not a project or is exempt from government code sections 65913.16C and B, 12B, and 65913.16L7 respectively. And second resolution number 2026-0865, attachment 2, recommending the city council approve tentative parcel map 2026-0865 to merge 4 parcels into 2 parcels, and coastal development permit 2026-0954 for such non-exempt development within the coastal zone at 340 St. Anne's Drive in the local business professional and residential medium density zones. And finding that no further environmental review is required under state CEQA guidelines section 15162, or alternatively is not a project or is exempt under government code sections 65913.16C and B, 12B, and 65913.16L7 respectively.
I will happily second that.
Commissioner Dubin,
Yes.
Commissioner Whiten,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Goldman,
Yeah.
Chair Kellenberg,
Yes,
motion carries.
hallelujah, as they say. Okay, thanks, everybody, for your patience and for your participation. Very important. So our meeting is not over, but you may leave quietly.
Right.
And the sooner you leave, the quicker we can continue our meeting. Thank
Sooner
you.
we can go home.
And we can go home too.
You can continue over here. Just ask them if there's any.
Okay, so do we have further business from the staff?
No, staff does not have any additional updates for you this evening.
Okay.
Please talk outside. Thank you.
Should open the other door. There's a traffic jam. Please take it outside. Thank you. Okay, and I'll repeat my question. Is there further business on the side of the staff?
No, staff does not have any additional updates this evening.
Are there any questions or issues that the planning commission would like to raise to staff?
I have none.
Yeah, I'd just like to say thanks, Pat, for taking the time on that memo for us to understand what we're doing and also responding to the questions. Appreciate that.
I appreciate the kind words. I can assure you it was a total team effort. While I spoke to you, it was mainly my colleague Jane Abzug, as well as help from planning staff, but I will take the credit. Thank you.
That's what's most important. Take the credit.
Thanks to
Well, they're not
the
here.
team. Thanks to the
Yeah.
team.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if there's no further business, would somebody like to move to continue or to adjourn and until our next meeting on June?
17th.
There it is.
Did I just make the motion?
I think you did. I'll
Would you like to
second it.
We get a vote?
Yes,
Commissioner Dubin,
yes.
Commissioner Whiten,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Goldman,
Yes.
Chair Kellenberg.
Yes.
Motion
Adjourned.
Carries.
Good job, everybody.
Okay, see you guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
see you. Make
Safe travels.
Yeah, thank you.